50 years ago, 6 women runners made a decision that would change the sport forever at the first New York City Marathon, where women were allowed to compete. Instead of running when the race officially began, they sat, protesting inequitable treatment of men and women in the race. 5 decades later, some of the women are still running, but humble about their impact on the sport.
Last month in Central Park, employees of the New York Roadrunners Club gathered at the former starting line for the New York City Marathon.
1, 2, 3.
To recreate and celebrate an iconic photograph. A snapshot of 6 women that changed the sport of running forever. We sat down with Jane Murky, Pat Barrett, Lynn Blackstone, and Nina Cusick, 4 of the women from the group that became known as the 6 who sat.
We wanted to make an impression, and we wanted to get things changed.
1972 was the first year women were allowed to run in the New York City Marathon, with just a handful entered. But the Amateur Athletic Union, or AAU, which governed amateur sports, required an altered course or start time for the women. So they were scheduled to begin 10 minutes ahead of the men.
I mean, how crazy did that seem to you?
Well, that's what didn't make any sense, yeah.
I mean, I was kind of young. I didn't understand it all. For 6 people, that didn't make any sense, you know.
So the 6 women at the race's start took a stand by taking a seat. And the New York Times took notice.
How was it decided that you were going to do this protest and sit at the start of the race?
I mean, it didn't seem fair to Nina and Pat. They were running to have to adjust their times. And the men that were running were very supportive. And it was really just to show the AAU that it could be done, and it made sense.
Earlier that year, the AAU had lifted its ban preventing women from competing in distance races altogether. Catherine Switzer had helped break the gender barrier at the Boston Marathon.
I was amazed in talking to Catherine Switzer when she told me that a doctor had said her uterus was going to fall out if she ran. Did any of you get comments like that?
I heard that.
You heard that one too?
I've heard coaches say that, yeah.
Despite how popular running is now, it wasn't always that way. Women runners were subject to harassment.
In the old days, sometimes people throw things at you. I mean,
Really?
Oh, constantly make terrible. I mean, it was at the time of women's liberation, but men were, and young boys, they were constantly making fun of women running. If you ran on the street, or wow, look at those legs.
Like catcalls, yeah.
And men were criticized too.
the marathon was just starting to be more coming to what it is today. I mean, it was, you know, a lot of men. They even got hassled trying to run marathons.
After 26.2 miles, Nina Cusick won the 1972 New York City Marathon for the women, its first women's champion. She spoke with CBS News after.
How did you feel coming around that last lap?
I really felt very good until the last half mile. My legs got a little tight.
What do you think about? What keeps you going in that last half mile when you feel like that?
Well, all kinds of things keep you going. You always wonder who might be coming up behind you. You also have a time in mind that you're trying to finish in. And there's always that nagging fear that you may be forced to quit.
Shortly after the race, the AAU dropped its separate but equal starting requirement. The 6 who sat helping change the course of running, insisting on equity in opportunity. This year, nearly 24,000 women are registered to run in the New York City Marathon.
The whole development is absolutely amazing. Never think of it, because I or we had something to do. It's just the development, the evolution. For example, we were just talking a while ago about scholarships and things that are now available to women.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
It's empowering. It has helped empower a lot of
right.
women. It's so interesting. Some of those women helped fight to get the marathon in the Olympics. Mm-hmm. It has changed so drastically. I thought it was great, too. Nina and Pat, who finished that race 1 and 2, they talked about the fact that they had 10 minutes added on to their time because, remember, they were supposed to start 10 minutes earlier, but they were sitting for those first 10 minutes in protest. But, it's moments like this that we have to remember. This is where we came from, and 50 years ago, wasn't that long ago. So kudos to them, and kudos to the New York Roadrunners, for being there for these women all along.
And good luck to all those men
Running
and women running
this
tomorrow,
weekend,
including
yeah.
our
Right.
executive producer.
Ryan Applegate.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It'll be a
Better
little
luck.
warm, but enjoy it.